In Norway, things were more expensive than I was used to here in the United States. So when you'd go over to Norway, if we wanted to go to like a fast food place, like a McDonald's, a combo meal at McDonald's was probably $15, where here in the United States, it's like $6 or $5 or something like that. So when my mom and dad would send me a $20 bill just in a letter to let me go out to eat or something, it was like, okay, I go and I cash the $20 bill for norske kroner, which are the Norwegian crown, and then I could buy basically a hamburger and maybe a candy bar with what my mom and dad sent me. But yeah, the food was always great. Norwegians just make some of the best stuff I've ever had. In the United States, we are a country of automobiles. Everybody has an automobile. I mean, you drive everywhere. Even if you're driving like 3 blocks or 300 meters, 400 meters away, most likely you'll get in your car and you'll drive a very short distance in the United States. In Norway, they walk or they ride a bike, and that's how people get around. I mean, there are cars, but not nearly the number of cars we have in the United States. The other thing that's interesting, and it was funny because a friend of mine from Norway came over to visit me, and one of the things he noticed was that our grocery stores, our shopping centers and grocery stores stay open 24 hours a day in many places. Many places in the United States have stores that are big, large stores, and they stay open every hour of the day. And in Norway, the grocery store might open at 8 a.m. and then they're done by maybe 4 and it's not open. And sometimes on the weekend it's open an even shorter period of time. Norwegians, I think, value the family so much that work is obviously important, but they love spending time with family, and I don't think they grind as hard at work as maybe Americans do that way. They don't think that you have to be open 24 hours and you don't have to have this complicated, fast-paced life that sometimes we have in America. That they have I think a more simple and easy life in a way that they value family and doing things like even just walking somewhere rather than hurrying and driving somewhere. Norwegians will just say, yeah, I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm going to walk to where I need to go rather than drive. And I think those are really good qualities for the country to keep and maintain. You see a lot more when you walk. The smells of your country and the beautiful mountains or wherever you're going, you have a better experience when you're walking somewhere, I think, than if you're driving somewhere. You don't see the subtleties of life that way. So, I had never ridden in Norwegian they call it a T-bane, which is a subway. So the below ground subways and the above ground trains, which we would call streetcars or something like that. In Norway, they're called a trikk. And so I'd never been on those before. So getting to ride the subway, my first city that I lived in was a place called Veitvet, which was just outside of Oslo. And so we would take the train or the T-bane into Oslo to go speak with people and talk to people and kind of go into our area where we worked. And so the neat experience about getting on T-bane was really great. We met people in some very unique circumstances. I remember one day we were walking up a street. Just out of the blue, we met this man that was maybe shoveling his driveway, maybe some snow, and we stopped to say hi, and he was very clearly upset. Something had happened, and after talking to him for a while, he had had a tragedy in his family. And we just sat there and just talked to him. Talked to him about what a wonderful family he seemed to have and about all the hopeful good memories that he had with this family member. But it was just a very wonderful connection moment that stands out in my memory as one of the really neat things that we had. Another funny one, we were shopping, my partner and I, we call him a companion in our faith, but my companion that I would go and work with, we would walk around, and we always had to be together because that was one of the rules of being on a mission, that you would be together with your partner all the time. And so as he and I were in a store, we went to a store and bought a week's worth of food, and as we were walking out, a man came and tried to steal our food, and I had people in the store running to help us, and they came in and got the guy, and as a 19-year-old boy, I didn't even know what to expect. I'm in a different country. In America, I would have known what to do, but in a different country, I don't know, can I attack this person for stealing my stuff, or what do I do? And fortunately, I had some wonderful Norwegian people that came to help and make sure that we had our food, that it was recovered and that everything went fine. But obviously, we were there doing missionary work, so I didn't have a lot of, I wasn't out dating or out, doing necessarily really fun things when I was there. But we had great fun every day. I'll give a funny example. So there's a park in Oslo called Frogner Park, and Frogner Park is a very famous park because it has statues of naked people, and they have really amazing statues throughout this park. And in the summertime, Norwegians will go to the park and lay out to get sun. And in Norway, very different from the United States, the women will go topless in the park. And as missionaries, we're supposed to have our concentration on doing the work that we're there to do. But yeah, going through that park and seeing things that I had never seen before, because we don't really do that in America, was like, oh my gosh, this is really different than what I'm used to in my life. I served in 4 or 5 cities. I was first in kind of the Oslo area, a little suburb of Oslo called Veitvet, and then I moved from there I was there for 3 months, and then I moved out to the west coast to a city called Haugesund. And Haugesund is a little fishing village, maybe my favorite place that I've ever been. It's just this quiet little fishing town, and the people are wonderful, and you can get fresh fish. There's just lots going on there, and a really neat walking street. They call it a Golgata. And just being in Haugesund was very special. And then we would go for meetings into Stavanger, which is just south of Haugesund. And then I got moved. I was in Haugesund for 6 months, and then I moved to Bergen. I was in Bergen for 3 months, which I loved. And then I moved to Oslo again, and I lived out near the NATO base. NATO has a big base there it's called Kolsås, and Kolsås had this base, and so we were right there by Kolsås. And so we were there, and at Kolsås, because it was a NATO base, there were a lot of American families that were there as part of the NATO presence at that base. And so because of that, we had family friends that would get us some things like peanut butter, like American peanut butter that we hadn't had in a long time, or little treats from the US that they could buy on base. And so we got little treats there, but the Norwegian food and treats were always the best. I was there in Oslo for about 8 months, and then I was in Sandefjord. And Sandefjord is just south of Oslo, which is the capital. And I was down in Sandefjord for about 4 months, and then it was time for me to come back to the United States and finish my mission.